Cleats crunching on red Arkansas clay. That's the sound Wade remembers first, before anything else comes back to him that afternoon. 9 years old, batting helmet too big for her head, Josie stood in the box swinging at nothing but air and sunlight. "Keep your elbow up, baby," he called from the mound, tossing an easy underhand lob her way. She missed. She missed again. Then, on the third pitch, crack! A clean line drive right past his ear, and she screamed like she'd won the World Series. "Did you see that, Daddy? Did you see that?" He had. He'd never forget it. That was the last summer she called him Daddy without flinching first. 6 years later, that same girl wouldn't look at him across a dinner table. Cedar Hollow, Arkansas isn't a big town, and everybody in it knew the story before Wade ever had to explain it. Coach at the high school, decent man, married young to a woman named Bridget, who left when Josie was 8 and took most of the warmth in the house with her. Custody got split down the middle on paper. In practice, Josie treated every other weekend at her father's like a jail sentence she was counting down. "You don't have to talk to me," Wade told her once, driving her home from a Friday handoff, both hands steady on the wheel while his voice cracked at the edges. Silence. Just the hum of tires on Route 9, and a girl staring out the window like the fields held more interest than her own father. "I just need you to know I'm here, every time. Rain, shine, doesn't matter." "Can you just drive?" she said. Flat. Final. That was Josie at 14, at 15, at 16. A locked door with legs. Bridget and raised her on a steady diet of half-truths, the kind you can't quite call lies because there's always a sliver of something real buried inside them. "He chose baseball over us," she'd say, sighing like the memory pained her. "He wasn't there when you had the flu. He wasn't there for your recital." Never mentioning the recital was scheduled during Bridget's custody week, information Wade only learned about after the fact, standing in an empty driveway with a bouquet of grocery store carnations wilting in his fist. Wade coached varsity baseball for 11 years at Cedar Hollow High, and if you asked anybody in that dugout what kind of man he was, they'd tell you, patient to a fault. He was the guy who ran extra batting practice for the kid who couldn't hit a curveball, the guy who kept a scouting report on every player's confidence level scribbled next to their batting average. He taught freshmen how to read a pitcher's grip before the ball even left the hand, how to hold their nerve in the on-deck circle when the whole bleacher section was watching. Patience was his whole profession. Somehow, it never seemed to translate at home. He tried, anyway. Every Tuesday for 2 years straight, he texted her the same question. "Batting cage after practice? My treat." And every Tuesday for 2 years straight, nothing came back. No thumbs up, no can't. Just silence sitting there on the screen like a locked gate. One April, she actually answered. "Fine, 30 men. Don't make it weird." He didn't make it weird. He fed quarters into the machine and stood behind the fence while she found her old stance again, rusty at first, her first swing missing everything but air. "You're dropping your back shoulder," he called out, careful, testing the water. "Same thing you used to do at 9. "You remember that?" She didn't turn around. "I remember everything." His voice thinned out on the last word. "That's kind of the problem, Josie. I remember all of it, and you act like none of it happened." She swung again. Clean contact this time, the ball smacking the back net with a satisfying thump. "Can we just do this?" she said, without the whole conversation attached. "Sure, we can just do this." They didn't talk again for 3 months after that, but he kept the receipt from the batting cage folded in his wallet for a long time, like proof something had actually happened between them, however brief. "She hates me," he told his assistant coach, a wiry man named Dutch who'd known Wade since college ball. They were raking the infield dirt before an early practice, mist still clinging to the outfield grass. "She's 16. 16-year-olds hate oxygen." Dutch didn't look up from his rake. "This is different." Wade's jaw tightened. "This is years, Dutch, not a phase." "You keep showing up anyway." "Every time."
He said it like a vow, because it was one, whispered to himself in 100 silent car rides where nobody answered back. Years folded into each other that way. Birthday cards signed and mailed, even when they came back unopened. Games he sat through alone in the stands of her school, because Bridget somehow always had a scheduling conflict for handoff, a girl growing taller and colder in the same motion. He never stopped. He never once considered stopping, not really, though there were nights he sat in his truck outside her mother's house and wondered if love that goes unanswered for that long is still love or just stubbornness wearing love's jacket.
Then, 3 months after her 18th birthday, Josie moved out of her mother's house for good, into a small apartment above the hardware store downtown, closer to community college than to either parent. Bridget helped her pack. Wade wasn't invited to help, wasn't invited to anything. But he did get one text. "Can you grab the last box from the garage? Mom's back is bad." He drove over that same evening. The garage held nothing but a battered cardboard box marked Josie, Misk, and when he lifted it, the bottom flap gave way, spilling half its contents across the concrete. Old yearbooks, a retainer case, and, sliding out from between 2 notebooks, a small spiral-bound diary with a corner folded down so many times the crease had gone soft and pale, like fabric worn thin from washing. He shouldn't have opened it. He knew that, even as his thumb found the folded page, some old fatherly instinct about privacy arguing weakly against a much louder instinct that had been starving for 6 years. He opened it anyway. "Dad came to my game today and I couldn't even wave. Mom watches. She always watches. If I smile at him, she brings it up for days, how disloyal I am, how I'm choosing him, and after everything he put us through, the least I can do is not humiliate her in public. So I did what I always do. I looked away. I hate that I looked away. I hate it so much I could scream. He waved anyway. He always waves anyway." Wade sat down right there on the cold garage floor, knees cracking, breath gone out of him like he'd taken a line drive to the chest. Page after page, the same story in 100 different handwritings of the same grief. A girl coached, line by line, to reject the one parent who never stopped choosing her back. Mom says if I hug him too long, it means I don't love her enough. Mom says he'll disappear again the second I let my guard down, just like before. Mom says, Mom says, Mom says. And tucked beneath every entry, threaded through the coldness he'd endured at every handoff, every missed recital, every silent car ride down Route 9, one line kept resurfacing. Different words, same ache. I miss my dad. I miss my dad. I miss my dad. He found the entry from the game when she was 14, the 2-out double in the bottom of the 6th, the game he watched from behind the backstop because Bridget had told the school he wasn't allowed past the fence. He stood behind the chain link the whole game. I saw him. I wanted to run over there so bad. I didn't. The folded corner, the page worn soft as cloth, belonged to one entry, dated 2 years back. Read so many times the ink had started to ghost into the paper beside it. If he ever finds this, I need him to know none of it was real. I never hated him. I was just scared of losing the only parent I had left in the house with me. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. He didn't call her that night. Couldn't trust his own voice yet, not with something this fragile balanced on top of it. Instead, he drove to the field. His field, empty under the stadium lights he'd left on by habit, and sat in the dugout until almost midnight, diary held flat against his chest like it might come apart if he loosened his grip. By morning he had a plan, and it wasn't a speech. Wade had learned enough about coaching kids through slumps to know that the worst thing you can do to somebody who's been failing under pressure is hand them a lecture. You give them room. You give them one clean pitch to hit, and you let them decide whether to swing. He drove to the apartment above the hardware store and knocked. Josie opened the door in sweatpants, hair pulled back.
surprise flickering across her face before the old guardedness slammed down over it like a screen door. "You didn't call first," she said. "No." He held the diary out, cover facing her, corner still folded soft against the pale spine. "Give it back." She reached for it fast, panic flashing across her face. The same guarded look she used to wear crossing a parking lot toward his truck. "That's mine. You had no right." "You're right. I didn't." He didn't pull it away from her, didn't make her fight for it. "But I already read it, and I'm not going to pretend I didn't, because pretending is what got us 9 years behind. So you can be angry at me for reading it. That's fair. Just don't tell me it wasn't true." Her hand stayed frozen mid-reach. "You don't understand what it was like," she said, voice climbing before it cracked and dropped again. "Every time I let myself miss you, she'd bring something up. How you used to skip games for practice, how you never fought for full custody, how easy it must have been for you to just let her raise me. I didn't know what was real anymore. I still don't half the time. I fought for you every day I got denied and never told you because I didn't want you carrying that weight."
He set the diary down gently on the table between them, like something that might bruise. "I should have told you sooner. I was scared it'd sound like I was bad-mouthing your mother, and I never wanted to put you in the middle of that. I was already in the middle of it." A short, broken laugh escaped her, more grief than humor. "I was in the middle of it since I was 8 years old, Dad." "I need you to hear something," he said, no apology in his voice, "because I don't think anybody's ever said it to you plain. None of it was your fault, not one word in that diary. You were a kid caught in a crossfire somebody else started, and you did the only thing that felt survivable." "Dad!" Her voice broke clean in half. "I'm not finished." He kept his hands steady, the same way he used to on the wheel, driving her home from handoffs nobody wanted. "I'm not here to make you choose between me and your mother. I'm here because I read 100 pages of a girl telling herself she wasn't allowed to miss me. And I need you to know you were allowed. You're allowed right now." She crossed the doorway before he finished the sentence, arms locking around him the way they hadn't in 6 years, shoulders shaking against his chest while he stood there in a hallway that smelled like fresh paint and somebody else's dinner cooking 2 doors down. "I missed you so much," she said into his shirt, words tumbling over each other. "I missed you every single day, and I couldn't say it. I couldn't. She made it feel like missing you meant I was betraying her, and I didn't know how to hold both." "You don't have to hold both anymore." He said it into her hair, voice finally cracking the way he'd held it together not to. "You just have to hold what's true." They talked for 3 hours on the floor of that small apartment, box of diaries and yearbooks between them, like evidence in a case finally closed. She asked him about the games he'd watched from behind the fence. He told her about the birthday cards he'd kept mailing even after 4 straight came back unopened, a small stack he'd never had the heart to throw out. Somewhere near the end of it, she laughed, actually laughed, unguarded, the sound cracking something open in his chest that had been sealed shut a long time. When he admitted he still had her old batting helmet in his truck, the one 2 sizes too big, because some part of him never stopped hoping she'd need it again. "You sure about this?" he asked her the day she loaded the last box into his truck bed, the same battered box with Josie Misk still scrawled on the side in her mother's handwriting. "Your mom's gonna have things to say." "She always does." Josie shrugged, though her jaw was set the way his got when he was bracing for something. "I already talked to her, told her I love her, and I'm not doing the guessing game anymore. Not with you, not with anybody." "How'd she take it?" "Bad at first." A pause, long enough that he almost filled it for her, then didn't. "But I think some part of her knew this was coming. Diaries don't stay hidden forever, Dad." "No," he said, "they don't."
2 weeks later, she gave up the apartment above the hardware store and moved back into his house on Larkspur Lane, into the same room with the same window that used to watch him wait for cars that never turned down the driveway. This time, the car turning down the driveway was hers, and she wasn't ducking below the seat to avoid being seen leaving it. The diary sits on his dresser now, that same page still folded soft at the corner, though these days it isn't grief pressed into the crease. Josie added one more line beneath the old ones, in handwriting steadier than anything that came before it. Home again. For real this time. People love to say time heals everything, and mostly that's a lie people tell themselves so the waiting feels bearable. What actually heals things is showing up anyway, on the day it costs you nothing and on the day it costs you everything, until the person on the other side finally has proof solid enough to trust. Wade never got an apology from anybody who owed him one, and it turned out he never needed it. He just needed his daughter to stop believing a story that was never true to begin with. Some fathers wait a season for that. He waited 9 years. He'd have waited 9 more.